Family, what's good? What's good? Welcome to another episode of Row Lamb Live. Tonight, I am here with my guy Frederick Littles of Wise Acre Comics. Frederick, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling great, man. Great to be on. Great to be on and everything, and let's have a great show.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if this is your first time tuning in to Row Lamb Live, this is a show where we talk about, we talk about creativity, we talk about life, we talk about how it's all connected. If you want to support the show, you can check out my Patreon. You can support. I think it's as low as like $5 a month. You can support the show, support the channel. I do this most Wednesdays. I just love having the opportunity to talk with creators and creatives about their process and what they're doing. So definitely, if you like this, share it with somebody, like it, subscribe to the channel, and check out the Patreon. Today, we're going to be talking about mainly Kickstarter. Frederick has a Kickstarter that's launching on March the 22nd. I currently have a Kickstarter that's going on for the third issue of my comic book series called The Scarlet Ranger. And so that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today, Kickstarter and comic books. But before we get into that, I just want to ask Frederick the question I love to ask most shows that I do. What is inspiring you right now, Frederick? What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? What's inspiring you right now?
Well, I don't have a favorite of sort, right? There's just a assortment of different books and everything, and I will show you one that I'm really loving right now.
Okay.
This beautiful theme, Horizon. This one, New Horizon, has a monster on their hands. I'm enjoying that one. I just did my picks and everything today for my pools. I picked up again the new Batman Absolute series.
The Absolute Batman. Yep.
So love that series. Also, just picked up the Flash one also as well. But this last one right here, I just got around to reading it. I'm hoping everybody's reading this and supporting because I'm a huge Milestone fan. But Shadow Cabinet.
Oh,
this
yeah.
one right here. This one went hard. The team, kudos and everything for a job well done. I hated that this was the last issue. I'm hoping more comes out. But inspiration wise, usually it can be anything, a spark, right? That gives me an ideal. Something I've read, something I watched, something I heard. And that comes almost every single day. And so I try to find inspiration from something just because I hate trying to, overcome writer's block. Once I have that, it's very hard for me to get out of it sometimes, everything, right? And I go into like a little bit of a rut and I can't write anything. And I'm like, man, okay, what's going on here? Yeah. And so I try to find ways to prevent that. And that's one of the ways, I do it by just listening, watching, and just, also observing what other people are doing also in this space.
Yeah. I wanna stay right there for a minute. When you talk about writer's block, when you find yourself in that place, and I know that can be a very for a writer, that's one of the worst places you could be. You know what I'm saying? That feeling of just, it's almost like despair, right? Where it's like, I want to write or I want to have an idea, but you just don't know where to go. What are some practical things that you do if you do find yourself in that space?
So usually, if there's something, especially like for Magnus, right? If I'm writing the next arc right now. And so one thing I fall back on is I try to catch, old shows that I really fell in love with and everything back in the day that I still have DVDs and stuff for. Even though, DVDs and stuff not popular now, I still have those DVDs, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of my favorite shows that really get my juices and everything flowing is the Boondocks. I love it. Mm-hmm. I popped that in and just hearing the characters come to life. Again, just something that they might say might spark an ideal. And then once that ideal is planted, it's a seed that actually grows. And then from there, I just start outlining different ideals, right? I just start throwing things at the wall and see if it stick. And if I write it down, everything pretty much in my notes, it can be on my phone. It doesn't really matter, right? if I can visually see it later on, that's what really comes, that's what allows me to come out of that writer's block.
Yeah.
So, I kind of go back to, I like a lot of old school stuff. I read a lot of old school comics and everything as well. But like I said, usually, like I said, at the end of the day, I try to make sure that I watch something that I enjoy, I read something that I enjoy, and then it might be a panel in the comic book, or it could be a segment in the video, in the DVD, or a movie that might just spark something to get me out of it.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think that's true. Sometimes, I'll hear people give the advice of, when you're writing something, don't watch movies or don't read the thing that you're writing, try to stay away from certain outside things. And I think there's a time and a place for that, but it can be absolutely helpful, when you're in the middle of something and you might be stuck or you don't know which direction to go. It can be helpful to, read something or to watch something or even just to listen to something that can sort of break you out of, that rut or just, get like you said, the juices going, right? Get you moving in a certain direction. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's certainly true.
One thing I have started doing is before I actually especially for Crisis, I'm working on Crisis number 2 right now. And I start lettering Crisis. Mm-hmm. And through the lettering and everything, the artist comes with the different pages and stuff like that. And with every script, everything changes. It's never the same.
Right.
And then this time around, my lettering has sparked ideas that I didn't really think about. And I was like, oh, think about that. I'm write that down. Let me come back to that. And that might create another story somewhere else, or, create a new page. So, just doing things within the creative space. Yeah. I think it's very important when it comes to be a part of this process, not just as a writer. I tell folks, if you're just a writer, do something else within this creative process. Doodle. If you're not an artist, you can draw stick figures. Do something else that really just gets your mind going.
Right. Get you out of the box a little bit. So now let's sort of go back a little bit. You mentioned a couple of your titles, Magnus, Crisis. Can you just sort of give us the bio, the rundown of just who you are and what Wise Acre Comics is?
Yeah, so I sort of Wise Acre coming back is pretty much like around between 2020 in that range. And it really came about from a pain point and then a good point within the industry and everything. So the pain point was, my mom passed away back in 2018. I went through like a bout of depression and everything, right? I had a hard time trying to get out of it. And I really just started just trying to figure out, okay, what can I do? And it was pretty much, in the early morning and everything. I tell the story quite often. I was sleeping in the middle of my sleep, I had a cold sweat, and I woke up out of it quick. But in it, I had a couple of visions, and I wrote 2 stories. I was on my phone 3 o'clock in the morning, just typing away, and trying to get everything I remember out of my mind and everything onto something. And then once I finished typing, it was roughly I think it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. About 2 hours later and everything, right? I had 2 stories outlined and really the first issue of both Magnus and Akama. And then from there, like I said, I decided to take a step because when I went to see Black Panther with the family, this was a huge film within the industry. And I don't think people really knew that was coming, right? The impact that it had on people. And the one thing I did and noticed quite a bit, everything was, if you go to the local comic book stores, I look at a lot of titles on the shelves, but there was a norm. There was just DC, Marvel, a couple of indies, but nothing really too big. And a lot of characters didn't look like me, right? And so I was like, you know what? I have some stories. Why not try my hand at something and maybe share my story? Because I feel like, everybody has a voice. Use it. And you have your story. And within Magnus and even a comment and everything, a lot of my stories I write, it starts with my mom. She's the central premise of all of my stories. She's the glue for everything. And it's always about family in some aspect. And so, my characters and everything was pretty easy to write because they were my family. And so when I pitched, I did everything to Devin, because I was still working on not only Akama and Crisis, I had scripted issues 1 and part of issues 2 of Magnus. I reached out to Devin R. Scott because I saw some things that he loved about, for Thor. He was very, really interested in Thor and everything. And I was like, you know what, Devin, I have an ideal I want to pitch to you. And I want to be able to bring in another writer to not only aid me, but give me a different perspective, because this is going to be 2 parallel stories in a way. We're sharing the story of a young man who lives in a single parent household. And also, we're going to tell a story based on the Orishas. And so, really trying to focus on the African diaspora and bring it to a modern time setting was, it was a balance, right? And so we had 2 voices, and both these voices and everything were intertwined in a way. And something came out of this collaboration was beautiful, because I was able to pick it back on, what Devin was writing. He was doing the same thing for me. And our focus point came to be that some things that we just loved. My love for X-Men back in the day and everything. That was Bruno, who's my artist on the first 4 issues. He loved X-Men, and so we kind of like found a grounding of an understanding of how we really create this story. So that's really how Magnus came to be. And so, it came from a pain point, but I used that grief, right, as a source of motivation to continue to write and tell and share stories.
Yeah. And how many issues of Magnus do you have out right now?
So right now we have 4 that's been produced. Issue 5 is done. That's the one. That's gonna be one for Kickstarter. They're gonna release here on Saturday.
Okay, this one right here.
Yep.
Okay. And what's your? Can you give us like the elevator pitch? Like when you at cons and you're at book festivals. Like what? How do you pitch it?
So usually I tell people, have you seen Black Panther? And if you've seen Invincible, then you will love Magnus. If you understand the African diaspora, and you want to learn a little bit more about the Orishas and who they are, you will love Magnus.
Yeah,
it's an enjoyable story. It's grounded. It's for all ages, even though we do have a little bit of graphics and everything in there from violence. But I really believe people will understand how family, the glue of what family everything is about, love, all across the board. You will love Magnus. That's pretty much my pitch. And it's a 16-issue arc for the first arc of the story. The first 6 issues give you the introduction of the entirety of the Magnus story that starts his story starts within the first 6 issues. And so, he's coming into his own, and he's learning a little bit more about himself as well as his family that he never knew that he had. And so that's what you get out of the first 6 issues.
Nice. Now, this is something I've been really wanting to talk about this, and I'm glad I have you on the show tonight, because I really haven't known who to talk to about this. But I'm glad you brought up the Orishas. Because one of the things that I think about is, as an African American, I think about wanting to explore different African religions and mythologies and just sort of tap into those things. And one of one of the things that makes me nervous about that is I don't want to use something, and whenever you're doing something like this, you have a certain creative license that you sort of take, right? Where, you might use Thor, you might use Zeus or something, and you put your own little spin on it, right? And for whatever reason, I always feel a little nervous about taking, African, religions and mythologies and putting a spin on it, right? How do you navigate that balance? What is your approach to, how much you try to keep true to the text, if you will, versus how much of your own creative liberty and license you take when you're creating these worlds and using these figures?
So when it comes to originality and everything, right, and respecting the motherland first and foremost, right, and doing my research. I did a lot of research before, I really started delving into that lane and what person I wanted to go with it and everything. But I wanted to show them in their own light, in their own presence. So I took, a lot of people, they give you a little bit of the scriptures and everything about who these individuals and everything were, and that's something me and Devin, we really, really grounded ourselves into research and understanding, these different characters and how we wanted to go about presenting them to the world, and we wanted to be respectful. And so one of the things I did, and when I do my concept characters and everything, right, I try to go to the root, the base knowledge. My concept artist for Magnus is from Africa. He's Nigerian.
Oh, okay.
And so, he knows this more than anything else. And so, I learned a lot from him through his art about these characters. And so I will advise people when they try to go into that space and everything, right? When they try to go into those areas, don't be afraid to go to the source. That's the biggest thing. Right. I had coworkers also that was from Africa. And the first thing I asked them everything was, I want you to read, my first draft of Magnus. Tell me if I'm missing the mark or not. Show me, what can I have done better. Seek out that feedback. And I tell people all the time too, don't be nervous to jump in that space. Because in all honesty, these stories really haven't been shared with the world. You don't get this often, everything. If you don't tell it and share it, then no one will. And so one of the things I think that came of it was I opened a door to more African creators to reach out to me, to collaborate, to work with us, everything on various different projects and everything, because they saw what we were doing. And we weren't afraid to step into that space and be respectful to those deities. And so, it can be, a slippery slope, but if you do it the right way, it can be done.
Yeah. So how much of your creative liberty did you take? Like, do you feel like you added some things and spice it up with your own like viewpoint, or you try to keep it like strict
there are some deities and everything, right? That some were male versus female, or some could be both. Okay. And so I was still respectful to those things, but I still added, me and Devin added our own flavor to it on how we saw these individuals. I wanted to tie them into this world and who they would be, without giving the plot up and everything too much.
Yeah, for sure.
there would be some things and stuff that happened later within the issues that you would see for the first time with the Orisha.
Yeah.
And to me, because we created their own story just for them.
Right.
A part of this universe. Right. They have a very, very important story because it really guides Magnus' story going forward for the next couple of issues, and how you get to his point of his real power and everything, right? And so there will be some things that happen within these next couple of issues that are going to probably throw people for a loop. I've been waiting to get to this point, right? Because when you're writing, sometimes you're like, man, there are gonna be some dry spots. And you're like, man, how can I keep here without slowing it down too much,
right?
And give away too much early on,
right?
And so I think we found a perfect balance to focus on the things that need to be focused on, and then bring it to the fold a little bit again, respectfully wise.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too, that I think is, this might be a little bit of a sidebar, but one of the coolest things I think when I read your books was seeing some of these, African, mythological characters in your book with the colors and the art style, right? Seeing it done in such a epic and beautiful way was something that definitely drew me, to the books. And I mean, I think you can even see that, like even in this right here on your pre-launch page. And if you're just tuning in, definitely check out the pre-launch page for this will be the 5th issue of Magnus. Definitely check this out. I see they already have 102 followers signed up, so definitely sign up for this so when they launch on March 22nd. So let me ask you this, turning to the crowdfunding aspect of all of this, what do you think, what initially brought you to, you started working on this in, I think you said 2018. what was the thing that made you say, cool, I'm a crowdfund this? Like, what brought you to the Kickstarter route?
I think I learned about Kickstarter through, well, for one, I backed a lot of Kickstarters. See, 282 right there, right? And
but
so
that's a 282 back, huh? I see it.
Campaigns. And I support indie comics because I love indie creators, right? I love supporting their work. I read some mainstream Marvel and DC. But one of the things and stuff that really got me into crowdfunding and stuff was supporting other indie creators and seeing what they were doing with their books and stuff. And I was like, hold up, time out. If they're doing this, why can't I do it? Why can't I be able to share my stories and everything? Right. And I think even though when I jumped in, I didn't know much about it. And so, learning over time, I was able to better perfect my process, learn from other people and everything too at the same time, and how to do fulfillment. What really hurt me early on, though, being in the military, I was overseas for like the last 3 years. So I didn't get a chance to see the back end stuff that a lot of people were doing, shipping books out themselves and everything, right? I had, Commonwealth Springs on a lot of that for me. But now since I've been back, I've been doing a lot of that, and I enjoy that process. I love packing books. I love signing books. I love, being able to hear from other people on, hey, Wise Acre, you're top notch customer service wise. You're on point with packing. And so to me, that gives you a little bit of the feels and stuff, right? To be able to connect with my backers and my fans in that manner. And so, but crowdfunding, though, I think it was additional. Like I said, I read up on a little bit. And I saw Kickstarter was my first platform I ran into and everything. Like I said, I backed a couple of indie creators, and I was like, it came about to where, okay, let me try to launch my first campaign, which I failed.
Okay.
And so, that was my learning thing. I was like, hey, I didn't really fund this campaign. Great opportunity, everything. I understand, I have some work I need to do. And then from there, I kind of like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this the right way. I can't just have, what and everything. I need to make sure I go about the proper manners of learning from other people, asking questions, reach out to Kickstarter and everything to figure out what can I do better on developing my page, and then watching, observe from others, like Concrete Comics. Love the stuff they put out and everything. Punch Publishing, things, within this space and everything, Advent Comics. And then even what I'm saying, man, that's Scarlet Ranger. Hey, look, folks, you're not back in Scarlet Ranger. Roe has a monster on his hands. You need to get on that book. That series is great. It looks good. I'm stoked about issue number 3. And so, just learning with other people within this space, and following them and seeing their growth over time continues to give me motivation, right? And I think Kickstarter has come a long way. Because one thing is that I have been doing behind the scenes, and I tell people this, everything is very important to do those surveys. Kickstarter give you a lot of surveys for after you have accomplished your campaign on what they can do better or what they're doing wrong, what they need to fix, everything. And I get a lot of surveys from them, and I provide them a lot of feedback. And guess what? Some of that input has been implemented. And I feel like I have as long as I have a little piece of the conversation to say, what, I can move this industry in a forward manner, so where we can all thrive in this space,
right?
Production, everything, that means more to me than anything. So crowdfunding is a different beast, but it's a good beast to be a part of.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about what it was like, coming off of the failure of that first campaign? Like, how did you navigate that? How did you, what was your thought process in that moment?
So I'm not a negative person, right? I hate being around negativity. My wife can attest to that. She knows that I hate being, just negative things. I always look for the positive in my failures. I never look for the negative thing, right? Because I take a little, Michael Jordan. He tell you he shot all he did for free throws and everything to get better. And he probably missed a couple and everything, right? But he never considered himself a failure. He was always successful in everything. Right. And so no matter how many free throws and everything I shoot, I'm going to land in one eventually. I'm going to make one. And so with that initial campaign, it was my opportunity to grow and learn from that and have learning experiences and everything. And it allowed me to be able to, again, understand how to advertise prior to a campaign because I did no advertisement before the campaign at all. I just launched it and boom.
Oh, wow.
And so, again, just wanted to jump into the fray.
Right. Right.
Then the other thing too was, really the book was, yes, it was somewhat finished, but it wasn't fully finished. And so those things and stuff allowed me to not only grow as a creator, grow as a person that can now market their books, grow, as a salesman, everything in a way to sell the book properly, to advertise the book, to be able to jump on lives and be able to talk to individuals and everything to tell you and share your stories. That campaign allowed me to be where I'm at today.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I sort of had the opposite of your experience because before I did my first campaign, I was like, I started doing a lot of study and I got in some have you heard of Comics Launch?
Yeah.
I got into that group. So I started marketing and promoting my Kickstarter like 3 months before we launched. So my first campaign I probably had like 245 backers. We raised like $6,700. So I came out of that campaign like, oh, this is easy. I can do this all day. And so what I did though was when I did my second campaign, I didn't recreate that process. I didn't promote the same way beforehand. And I went into the second campaign. We passed our goal, but we only had like 100 and some backers, and we raised like $30 some hundred. $30 some $100. And so for me, I'm like, I was feeling like a failure coming out of that. I'm like, I'm supposed to be doing 6,000. I'm supposed to get 10,000 on this campaign. Like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And so I think the interesting thing to me about Kickstarters and crowdfunding is I think, like you said, it's always a learning lesson, right? It's always an opportunity to see, all right, where do I stack up, right? Like, what do I need to work on? What do I need to change? Is it something wrong with the book? Is it something wrong with my marketing? Like, what is it that I need to adjust in order to get the result that I'm looking for? You know what I mean? And so I think that's dope. But you mentioned marketing and promoting. What is your approach to marketing and promoting your campaign?
My approach is to never do everything the same, right? Something has to change. As you see this campaign right here, this is the first one I will launch underneath my umbrella for me being the writer and creator and everything, right?
Okay.
And this one right here, I'm doing duos. This is the first campaign I will launch 2 books at the same time.
Oh, okay.
And so
these are 2 books.
There's 2 different books. There's Magnus and also Veve.
Gotcha.
Veve is my voodoo-based baby. I wrote that story thing a while ago. It was rooted in New Orleans, and so you get this character Lisa, who is pretty much has a bloodline of Papa Legba, and so she's kind of like the chosen one in a way. She's gonna be the gatekeeper. Like I won't spoil it too much, but the one thing about this one though is again, when you find your art team, your creative team, they must be invested as you. And so with Veve, my artist was invested in this story, in this character, and the world that we was creating at the same time. And so, I think because she's grounded, you're going to learn a lot more about Lisa. This is going to be a 32-page book introduction with a lot of additional artwork and everything that's going to be involved in this one as well. Some custom artwork that I think, people are going to definitely enjoy. And so, again, this is my first time doing a dual campaign with 2 books. And the goal was try to make sure I give the backers not only quality, but get them their value. Oftentimes and stuff, like I said, at the end of the day, the one things we see in the indie space, everything, people are always talking about value. I'm gonna pay $10 or $20 and everything for a book and everything. What I'm getting in return, in a way, right? So, I want to make sure I created this campaign to show that, hey, value is there. We just need your support, right? And so I think both of these books here can be something sort of beautiful, and it might be something we can start going forward in the future of everything, especially for Wiser Comics. Launch 2 books all at one time, give you more content, more books, and everything to read. Because again, we have developed a lot of stories over the last 3 years, and now we're it's go time.
Yeah, yeah. What is your so I guess outside of the crowdfunding campaigns, what do you do in terms of how do you build your community or your audience around these stories and around your, because you don't just have one, but like for me, I have Scarlet Ranger, but you have a whole stable of titles. So how do you go about building that community and that audience and keeping everybody engaged outside of your crowdfunding campaigns?
So we have a good relationship thing also with Global Comics. We launch a lot of previews on their platform. Their team, I love working with them. They give us a little free latitude and everything to really, showcase our work. So we're not waiting until the book is finished. We're showing crazy everything. We're showing backers and customers and stuff up front, the entire process from start to finish. We also have some private groups and everything too on Facebook, to where we kind of like our fandom. These are kind of like our hardcore supporters that come in and support us and everything as well. Again, we promote a lot on social media, through Instagram, through Facebook, through Threads, through Blue Sky. We're constantly posting content every single day. And then we have our email distro. Our email distros, again, our hardcore fan base, to where, I try to make sure I communicate something to them that know, hey, look, this book, it was in production. Here's new drop, fresh inks, fresh pencils, fresh colors. So that way, give us feedback. If you like what you're seeing, everything, that's what we always say. Give us feedback, because guess what sometimes we do? We hear you. We apply that feedback. We make it better. And so, this is, again, it's an indie space, and it's going to take time, right? You won't be an international sensation overnight. It's going to take hard work, dedication. It can be a grind. It can be wear and tear. I guarantee you talking about crowdfunding, right? After 30 days, it felt like you went through a 1-round fight with Mike Tyson. Once you're done over the 30th year, because you're like, man, it was exhausting, but it's worth it though. It's worth getting your story thing out for people to see it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've really appreciated about, watching you in this space, is, I just feel like, I used to drop into some of your lives on Instagram, and you would be just talking about the work that you're doing behind the scenes, right? We're working on this story, we're doing this, here's some updates on this, here's some behind the scenes things. And I think that's one of the cool things that I think is just watching you and your company is you can tell that, one, you care about the work, and two, that it's going to take time. It's going to be hard work. We're going to have to grind this out, but we're going to grind this out. You know what I'm saying? And that's very inspiring to see, you know what I mean? But I do want to ask you, what keeps you going, right? On those days when you got the writer's block, or those days when you don't necessarily feel like, because I know you do some editing as well, right? You don't feel like editing, or you don't feel like doing the letters, or like what keeps you going? What keeps you motivated?
It's fun.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing about everything is, right, a lot of people probably think I'm crazy. It's never about the money for me.
I mean, it's sort of about the money, but no, I'm playing. Go ahead, I'm playing.
What it's about everything is putting the book in somebody's hands.
Yeah.
When they smile and they come back for more. That's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
When I was out in San Diego a couple weeks back and everything for Black Comics Book Day, and one guy came by the table, he picked up the first issue of Magnus. He said, you know what? I see the trade there, but my wife would kill me and everything if I buy it right now. Let me just go ahead and get the floppy instead. And he came, he read that book, came back the next day, and he said, you know what, man, get that trade. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
you pouring your heart and soul into your own story, your own universes and everything, and people are appreciating it for what you do. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if it becomes more about money and everything, you're in the wrong space, right? Your voice is your loudest mouthpiece, and if people can hear you and they see it and they love it, they keep coming back for more, and that's what drives me. And so when I create these stories and everything, right? I had a lot of these stories and everything back in, I have done probably back in my elementary, junior high days and stuff. Never thought about it, and it was always planted. It was always embedded somewhere in my life through lived experiences. And now they're coming out and they're pouring out and everything, right? And I have so much I want to say. And I tell people all the time everything too, now, especially now. Come 1 July, I'm probably gonna have a lot more to say because the handcuffs will be off a little bit more so than anything else.
Okay.
And so, but I have a lot I would have to say during that time frame. And but my thing is, better share my voice, share my stories, and then hopefully those stories resonate with somebody to get them to start on their path or impact their life in a way to like how Black Panther impacted me during my time of grief, right? So if I can speak, if my story can speak to someone, their heart, their mind, their soul, have done my part.
Yeah. And I like what you said there about the fun of it, because I think sometimes I think about that where I might be writing a story and I'm thinking like, okay, I got to make sure I do this. I got to, make sure it's good. I got to make sure. And then it's like, you know what? Like, then I have to remind myself, let me get back to the fun of this, right? Let me get back to the reason why, when I first started writing because it was fun. I mean, that was really the reason, you know what I'm saying? But then as you get older, you start thinking about, okay, Kickstarters and just all the things that come with it, right? Like right now, I think I have like 17 days left in this Kickstarter. So I'm like in the middle of my Kickstarter, and it's not a lot of fun being in the middle of a Kickstarter, right? Because you trying to get these backers in here. You get like one backer, two backers here. You know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, look how we speed this thing up, But I love what you said there about the fun, and so I wonder for yourself, how do you make sure that you're keeping it fun for yourself? Like outside of everything else, how do you make sure like, look, I'm keeping this thing, I'm having fun. You know what I'm saying?
Well, when you start seeing things like this coming into the fray and everything, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
You're like, you're seeing your product.
Yeah.
In your hands.
Yeah.
All of the blood, sweat, and tears, all of the long nights that you put effort and everything behind.
Yeah.
Getting your book produced.
Yeah.
And then, seeing your vision of everything come to life. That's the beauty of it. The one thing I love about the House of Wise, that's my family, the imprint and everything, of being able to see other creators and everything thrive in this space. Where they support them, they really support the Alan Lynch's, the Mark Tay, all of these, Monica, Jared, all of these different crazy everything that I have a chance to go behind the scenes stuff with and see the work that they're doing. We have signed, brought on to the family everything, quite a few new creators that's coming to this space. They have great stories and everything they want to share with everyone. And trust me, there's some work. There are some things out there that I cannot wait to share. And one of the goals I set out for, and that's why I say it's fun, right? Because you can set these milestones, these goals to challenge yourself. It's a challenge for me. I love to just jump into the lion's den and see if I'm able to be very competitive and fight my way out of these different challenges, right? So this year we decided to embark on a 12-month agenda where we'll be launching a campaign every single month with a new book.
Wow.
And with that, we're going to also distribute these books within this calendar year. All of it.
Wow.
I know that's going to be a challenge, right?
For sure.
But I set my mind and my heart and my soul to do this and everything because, again, I heard the voices within this space that said, hey, look, how can we continue to uplift any community if we're always in a waiting pattern? But guess what? We're going to try to resolve that. We're not going to be in a waiting pattern any longer. We're going to show that it can be done. We just need your support to make it happen.
Right.
And so you have asked for these things, and this is where we have to make sure we do our part as indie creators, and the indie supporters have to continue to be able to support that process. Like you're saying, hey, look, what happened when the first time I hit 6,000, now I hit 3,000.
Right.
You can be like, man, you have doubts now that's sewn in. Like, should I be even doing this? Or should I continue?
Right.
Because it costs money to produce these books, folks. Like that. It costs money to keep this going. And so we thrive based off of you and everything. So, but at the end of the day, when you lose what brought you to this point to do this, that's when you probably need to bow out. I don't see myself getting to that point anytime soon, right? Because I know we have sat down and what's coming behind, even after this lunch and everything here, what's coming in the future, and then even the things we got even on the things I can't even talk about just yet. Okay, that's on the pipeline as well, which is I think will be huge for the indie space because people have been asking for it, and now we're going to make sure we do it. One of the first things we did was, again, one of my niches and everything that I really have invested in is Africa. You saw that with Blood Wars.
For sure.
Right? And so I've done a lot of work and everything with artists, with animators within the African region because, I want to make sure I tap into them and open doors for that region because I think they have a lot of stories they need to tell and ready to share with the world, and it's not being shared right now. And so we just announced with them, with the African Comic Convention, a distribution deal to distribute books and stuff in that region, and also with 4 different comic conventions and stuff, we'll be able to attend as well. And so, huge deal. But I'm hoping that this will open doors for other indie creators and everything to come into that region to be able to share books and stuff with those individuals that really are hungry for content. And so I think Spoof is leading the charge on this. And I told myself I'm fully on board, I'm fully supporting what they're doing, their efforts. And so, it's gonna be a beautiful relationship. And then hopefully in June, July timeframe, we'll have another major announcement to make. And that's gonna be really, really good. Looking forward to that one.
Awesome. Okay, before we get out of here, definitely you all go check out this pre-launch page for Magnus Jakuta, and you said Vive? Is it Vive? Vive. Y'all definitely check that out. I didn't realize it was 2 books. I mean, that's incredible. So it's 2 books. Y'all definitely check it out. Frederick, do you have anything else that you want to say about, this campaign, about the books, about, what people can expect?
So one of the biggest things part of this campaign is I'm bringing back our Spotlight program. So we're trying to spotlight on various different indie creators throughout the duration of the campaign. And with that being said, because again, I like to point to other indie creators and support their works and everything, they have donated an issue of their book for this campaign, which means for stretch goals and stuff, you'll be getting more books for free from these very different creators and stuff out there. So you have an opportunity to get up to roughly, right now the count is between 12 to 15 books this campaign.
Wow.
Not just Magnus and Vive, but you're also getting Punch Publishing, Pop Scars. If you have not read that book, you need to jump on board and get this book during this campaign. The first issue of Pop Scars will be available and everything through collaboration through Punch Publishing. You'll be able to get Pop Scars issue number 1 for free as well. And so that's the beauty of being, being indie, being able to collaborate with other creators and be able to shine a spotlight on them as well, utilizing your platform to uplift other indie creators and everything is something we definitely want to do with this campaign going forward. So March 22nd, we're launching. Come on board.
22nd. Y'all definitely support Frederick and Wiseacre Comics. I just want to say, Frederick, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming through tonight. I remember, like I mentioned before, I got on a live one time, and you were just talking. I don't remember what you were talking about. Obviously, one of your books, and you look down and you said, "Oh," he said, "Ro, how you doing? Ro Lamb, y'all check out Scarlet Ranger." And so I just want to say, when you say you're uplifting, you know, the indie creators and the community, like that's not just something that Frederick is saying. Like Frederick actually does that, and Frederick actually is looking out for the people in this community. And I just want to say I appreciate you for looking out for me. I appreciate all your support and all your love. And I'm excited to see, you know, all the things that you're doing, the vision that you've laid out, the ambition that you have. I just appreciate it. It's inspiring. And however I can help you, you know what I'm saying, let me know. And because I'm down to help, down to support. So I appreciate you, brother. And to the viewers, to the audience, thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all definitely check out Frederick's campaign that launches March the 22nd. Also, real quick, you know, I got to plug Scarlet Ranger. Issue 3 is on Kickstarter right now. We are at 78 backers, around $3,600. And so we're pushing for 5K. We have some a stretch goal that I just announced the other day, which will be a creator commentary that's going to go through issues 1 through 3. And I'll just break down just some behind the scenes, some choices, some things we did with the pages. So you only get that if we hit 5K. So if you've backed already, share it with somebody, tell somebody about it. You know what I'm saying? If you haven't backed, head over there right now. And back today, pledge today. Thank you so much for your support. If you like this, share it with somebody, subscribe to the channel, comment, leave a comment for me. And with that being said, you already know what time it is. I love you. I love you. I love you. Have a great night.